Welcome to Too Many Games, where the more you play, the more you win. I'm Chuck.
Hello.
This is my...
I fucked that one up again, didn't I?
This is my co-host, Travis.
Hello. It's May 4th.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you, and also with you. No, wait, that's Catholicism, so don't do that.
Somebody mentioned that. Someone mentioned that because, they're like, hey, may the force be with you to someone. And they're like, and also with you. And they're like, I grew up Catholic. That's funny. I didn't grow up Catholic. I just thought that's what you said. I didn't know it had anything to do with Catholicism. I was just like, that's what you say when someone says, may the force be with you.
It's almost like George Lucas took inspiration from real world stuff. I don't know, man. I thought projects were completely 100% unique.
Well, everyone knows that Star Wars isn't derivative at all.
Nope. Completely unique. Nothing else like it. If you're new to the podcast, we make this as a book club style where each of the hosts, me and Travis, will bring a game to kind of talk about and we can engage with. And it's just like a loose discussion, not really a review or anything. But we also like to start the show off with some general discussion.
We like to say it's a loose discussion and not a review because after a couple of episodes, myself particularly, but I realized I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about as far as like a legitimate review goes, because I'll miss like giant chunks of the game, or you should like start off by like, oh, this is this type of game and it was made by this company and it was made, like start off with some really solid stuff. And most of the time I'm like, dude, this game is fucking awesome. It's so cool. You should play it right now. And then just whatever,
Well, and on my side, it's like you can look up all these games reviews, and there's people who will go take the time to be like the history of the company and what it took to make the game and stuff. And it's like, first off, I like to play games. I want to discuss like how well it plays, how much fun it is to play these games. But also, the games I bring, I tend to have a particular reason why I want to talk about them. If you go to our Avengers review, episode 3, no, that's Breath of the Wild. Episode 2 is Avengers.
No, that was episode like 2.5. That was a fucker of an episode, dude.
I go very much in length into all the bullshittiest systems of that game. And then, you know what? I still like it. I still like to play. I still play it every now and then, But that doesn't mean all those systems aren't a piece of shit. Without further ado, our general discussion topic today is, what game would you like to see made? If there's any game, like a game on your mind or just something that you feel is a missing niche that the gaming community just hasn't like picked out,
We're definitely not going to steal any of these ideas if you respond to us. That's a fan. Everyone give us your licensed property. So
make sure when you're filling out those comments, at the very bottom, you have to write out "I consent." Don't put anything too much more detailed other than that. Just say "I consent."
Good to go. Although that does lead me to the point where I know there was a whole night where I was, a little sauced up, a little drunk, but I was talking to you about a game that I wanted to make, right? That just seemed like such a great idea. I had just watched a video about Battle Royale simulator, like a totally realistic battleground or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, then they made like a more Call of Duty-esque version that's like 20 on 20 or 40 on 40 or something. There's like super low graphics, but like really tight gameplay, really tight gunplay and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember you sent me the video of that. It's like Minecraft, but with like accurate guns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like super simple graphics, nothing to it, a bunch of polygons and shit. But the gameplay itself is really dope, right? I had the same kind of thought for like, you remember Star Fox 64?
Yeah.
Well, Star Fox 64 had a multiplayer version that was so much fun, and maybe it was so much fun because there was only like so many multiplayer games that my friends and I could all play together, like GoldenEye. Well, GoldenEye is just shooting, and at a certain point, because you're all playing on the same screen, and it's not like you're trying to look at the other person's screen, but it's also really hard not to have peripheral vision, right? Like I've seen all sorts of ghetto rigs where people get like cardboard and separate a TV screen and all that shit. But whenever it's like 4 people and we're all sitting around playing fucking GoldenEye or whatever, well, we used to play a lot of fucking Star Fox 64. And in Star Fox 64, you could also, instead of just being like the starfighter thing with the normal Star Fox ship, you could be a tank, like one of the tank levels, and then
Hmm.
I'm almost positive, although now I'm going to have to look it up because Star Fox is for infantry multiplayer. There was supposed to be a little bazooka man. So you could be a little infantry guy also. And so in my head, I'm thinking, all right, those are 3 variations. You get the R-Wing, you get the tank thing, and you get the little infantry guy. And then you give them all 3 kind of like rock, paper, scissors like abilities, right? Like they all have to just shoot or whatever. They all have to just, naturally interact with the game. But then maybe the infantry guy can EMP down vehicles, and maybe the tanks can throw out, a gas that kills infantry, or whatever, to interact with that rock paper scissors so that it makes dynamic inside, because if the starships are the strongest thing, then who's ever going to be a fucking infantry or a tank? There's no reason to. So then
Yeah.
you rock paper scissors them, and I think just that on like a big scale of like 50 on 50 or 20 on 20 would just blow up, would be like such a fucking fun game.
Right. Yeah. It's like Robotech Battlecry or
Oh
something Assault, Mech Assault,
yeah.
Mech Warrior.
Oh yeah, no, see,
Yeah, Mech Assault, where
right.
it's like the hyper realistic mech game that you could have on the computer, and it like gives you the console. You have to like buy the entire fucking RP console that has switches everywhere and shit.
That is intense. I did play
And
some.
yeah, it's like a $500 VR console kind of thing.
That's ridiculous.
God, I can't remember what game that was. I don't think it was Mech Assault. It might be. But one of the last iterations was back when the Xbox had the Kinect. They
Oh
tried to
my
do
God.
motion controls with it, and it was so buggy. Like nobody could finish the first level, because part of the first level is like, once you get the enemy down to a certain health, you're supposed to like load in a missile or something from your cockpit and to launch it as like a final thing. But the lever to load it is like you pull it down kind of like a horn on a semi truck, and for some reason the game wasn't registering that right, so nobody could like pull down that lever.
Well, that sounds like terrible game design.
Yeah, so I would say like, yeah, Star Fox mixed with like that, where
The super buggy game no one can play.
well, the earlier ones were really good. That's why I had such a fan club that had like $500 controllers,
Right.
My thing was like back in high school, like this is 2006, 2007. I am a huge Star Wars nerd. So, I actually had written out probably a 20-page notebook on the Star Wars game I would like to see.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't like, maybe the first page was like plot, because that wasn't what I cared about. Like fucking Star Wars plot. What else do you need? Oh no, you're a secret Jedi against the Empire. Go do your shit. You don't really need plot in these. What's important is the gameplay. What gameplay did I want to see at that time, kind of thing. Now, mind you, 2006. This was before like the Old Republic MMO. This was before the Force Unleashed. This was like right as the prequel trilogy ended. Like episode 3 had just come out the year before.
Oh.
So the only MMO at that time was Star Wars Galaxies, and I wasn't playing that at that time. I didn't have a good computer. So mostly the things I was playing was like the Lego Star Wars. There was the Nintendo 64 Star Wars of Dark Forces. There's the Republic Commando, which came to PS2. There's the Battlefront games that came to PS2.
I did play the Battlefront games.
Yeah. So it's like pretty much any of the ones that came to like the PlayStation or the GameCube, those were the ones I was playing a bunch, including the game I'm bringing tonight, which was Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. in this book, and no, I do not. I no longer have it because it's one of those things where it's like,
Damn it. That was my next question.
you kind of hit that depression period and people start making fun of you for being a nerd. And so you kind of get like very self-conscious and you throw it away.
No. Follow your dreams.
Yeah. In that, it was like, it's basically outlining, a kind of an MMO, but more of a single player style experience where, you pick your class and like what kind of customization options for each race, what class you wanted to play, like what abilities those classes would have.
So Star Wars Elden Ring.
Well, like basically Star Wars Galaxies,
Yeah, which was a dope game.
The internet wasn't that big at that time. I didn't know about Star Wars Galaxies until I got into World of Warcraft, and I was like, hey, cool, I'll try Star Wars Galaxies. And then that was after the infamous patch that everybody hated, and so it's like I couldn't really play that one because everybody hated it. One of the big things was planets. At that time, I was writing out a Star Wars game that had planet jumping capabilities that later came out for No Man's Sky.
Oh.
Massive planets that you could go from the ground to the atmosphere, into outer space, to start a warp drive to go to the next planet, that kind of thing, without any load screens or anything. And so, like, most of that 20-page booklet was me thinking up new planets and writing out the flora and fauna and everything of those planets and what you would be doing on those planets. Like, would this be in control of the Empire, or would this be a rebel base, or would this just be, a random planet that just has like big monsters on it,
God damn it, Chuck, you really threw away a gold mine there. Like, you already put in all the work. You could have just sold that information to somebody like that's making a shell game, and they could just plug all that information in and be like, hey, great, you made half of a game. You did all the IP work of a game.
Hey, you know what? My only defense is depression is a bitch.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, at least it's still in you. Although I did I did watch a video about a guy who was saying how we are no longer, I mean, you know how like all your cells and stuff get replaced like over a certain amount of time. And so people are like, but he was talking about like mentally, like you change who you are so much. And I used to, think back to whenever we were kids and shit. I'm like, I should get back into doing this. And I remember having so much fun doing that. It's like, no, I'm just not that person anymore.
Right.
Like I've completely changed. Some of the things that I like to do whenever I was younger, or that, like I try to go back and this got super existential really fast. But anyways, with your notebook.
Right. At that time, it was like one of those things of, I would like to see games progress this way. And then No Man's Sky comes out and it kind of has that. And it's like, for fuck's sake, I just want them to license out that engine so that more people could use that, because it is such an innovation. And like that was one of the more depressing parts when No Man's Sky first came out and everyone was throwing fit. Oh, well, they said it was good at multiplayer. Oh, they said it's good at space battles and shit. Shut the fuck up. Look at what you could do on this game. This is you land on a massive planet. You can fly straight into space and fly to the next planet with no loading screens. This is insane. This is like exactly the sci-fi game I've wanted for decades, and you guys are throwing a fit because you can't play with your friends on it. Go fuck yourself. Go play something else.
You're like,
get out of my game.
You fucking fool. While you were hanging out with your friends, I was writing about my Star Wars book. You don't need friends to have a good time. Yeah.
Look where we are now. You have all your friends and I don't have my book.
He wasn't talking about me. He wasn't talking about me specifically in that situation, because I don't have any friends or a book.
No, that was sad. Just a quick rant on No Man's Sky. I might touch up on that game, but it's really hard to bring that game to talk about, because since the launch, they've come out with so many free content that like vastly changes the game every time. It's really hard to like pick it back up and be like, oh yeah, this is where I left off, because it's so different now.
Dude, it's
that I have to relearn the entire game.
It's exactly the point I was making about how you become a different person. The game has changed so much from its infancy. It's a completely different game.
But it's awesome for those who stuck with the game. Like, I'm quite glad that they were managed to pull that from the brink of obscurity, you know?
No, definitely. That's really cool. Sorry.
All right. Well, with that out of the way,
Mission successful, man. We
all right, yeah. So, if anybody's listening to this and wants to give us their ideas, again, right, be sure to write "I consent." But let us give us a comment on our Twitter page at toomanygames2. It's TOO mini games and then the number 2. Please comment. Nobody's commented yet.
I'm so lonely.
I heard there's over a million, definitely over a million people who use Twitter. Even though Elon Musk bought it, you can use it to send us shit. Like, I don't even care if it's spam, you know? Come on. Like,
Yeah.
Where's all the spam companies at? I want to see some Raid Shadow Legends advertisements on my Twitter page, damn
it. You're too much.
Also, Raid Shadow Legends, if you're looking for another person to, you know, give a little money out for some shout outs, you know, we're easy.
We're easy and dumb.
I'll play whatever shit you want for $20. I mean, $200. Yes, I said the $200. So, this week, Travis, you got a game to talk about?
Yeah, hell yeah, I got a game to talk about.
Why don't you go on talking then, Talkie McGee?
You know what I'm going to talk about? Motherfucking Rocket League.
All right, so this section's completely edited out, so go ahead, talk whatever you want to say.
So, Rocket League is a game that I have been playing for years and years and years and years and years now. Not since its inception, because I thought it was a dumb game for the longest time. One of our mutual friends, Dustin, tried to get me to play it. And I was like, man, racing games are stupid. Like, I don't want to play a fucking car game. Like, you know, I was playing a lot of first-person shooters. You know, I grew up playing Counter-Strike and
League of Legends.
Was, you know, playing a lot of League and shit. Probably playing a lot of private server fucking classic WoW. Bunch of dumb shit. Eventually, I just took the bait, and my friend Dustin was like, "Hey, I'm gonna buy a copy of this game and give it to you, so you'll finally play." And man, I guess I have not thanked him for that specifically, but I've spent like, I mean, thousands and thousands of hours playing Rocket League. I'm being very vague in general right now, but Rocket League is essentially what a soccer match would be, right? If it was a 3-on-3 soccer match, and instead of running around and physically kicking a ball, you were driving a car. Not only were you driving a car, but you're also in a closed off arena. So, you know, this ball can interact with the sides and the ceiling and the floor, bounce around, but you can also propel yourself up into the air. So you can fly in this game, right? But it's also an incredibly physics heavy game. It's not like fantastical in the sense that your cars are flying around being weightless, right? You're only ever in the air if you can manipulate the right conditions. And even then, like staying in the air or then being precise while in the air, like just flying in the air, you know, it's not really hard, but then flying in the air the right way and then precisely hitting a ball in a 3-dimensional area the right direction you want it to is so difficult. So one of the ways to describe it, and I know that a lot of people say shit like this, but you know, it's like it's easy to learn because the concept is very simple, right? There's a ball, there's a bunch of people, you want to score goals and not get scored on, but it's incredibly hard to master. I mean, there are some people that they spend hours, and I'm not talking about like 10 hours, I'm talking about hundreds of hours just learning one mechanic so that they can pull off one particular shot. And me, myself personally, so like most competitive online multiplayer games, there's like a ranking system, right? So from like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and then from diamond it normally is like specific to whatever game. In Rocket League, it's champion, then grand champion, then supersonic, legend. And I am right there at the cusp of champion. I am Diamond 3. And it's a little bit different because I actually don't play traditional 3v3 soccer, which is a fucking hilarious pun on soccer for cars. But I play like a side mode called Drop Shot. And Drop Shot, personally, I think is so much harder than traditional Rocket League because it's still 3v3, right? So you can play like 2v2, you can play 1v1. The traditional is normally 3v3. Anyways, I think you were going to say something. I cut you off.
So, I mean, what's the plot of the game? What's the story?
So there's no plot, no story, no nothing.
No
some
plot.
people,
How am I supposed to get invested in the characters if there's no plot?
because it's you. It's you. You're the little man in there driving the car around. You're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna bop
I
this
feel no
ball.
attachment to this character. I hope he dies.
Well,
it's a drop shot.
Well, that got dark.
You're basically the hipster of Rocket League, where it's like, I play Rocket League for the drop shot, not the traditional game.
I'm way too cool for traditional Rocket League. Although I do play with other people sometimes, like friends and shit. Be like,
Yeah.
oh, let's play, you know. Or Mark, Mark and his brother and a couple of his friends and stuff. Sometimes we'll be like 5 people deep, and I'll jump into their Discord, and now we got 6 people. It's like, fuck yeah, we can do like an in-house 3v3 drop shot, or like an in-house, you know, 3v3 regular. They play Rumble or all sorts of stuff, maybe some weird modifiers. But the plot of Rocket League is actually really intense, right? There is this super corrupt Baron who runs the what are you laughing about?
I know you were coming up with a story, but I started giggling at the thought of Rocket League having a plot.
It has a very rich and deep, concentrated plot about absolutely nothing. It's an incredibly toxic game that you only play online, and the regular player base is like under 25, definitely. And
it's all about parking.
And the whole game is about parking. Fucking clam digger. No, so there's this level of expertise, right? Not only that, I play Rocket League, and I love Rocket League so much that I had written down some tips that I was trying to help myself like make muscle memory. You know, like I wrote down some tips for myself whenever I'm playing so that I will commit them to memory. But that's the super complicated part about the game, right? Like, you are driving up a wall, the ball's moving, you know, like at a moderate speed, but you're following it. And so now you have this opportunity to hit this ball. Well, so you also now have like 17 things you could do, right? You can do things in the game called air dribbles. So this is where you just jump, hit the ball, but hit it so that your car's going the same speed so that you can continue to lightly push it forward, right? So it's like you're dribbling in the air. And then you can try to put it on top of your car to roll it over people. You can try to put it underneath your car to slam it into the ground. There's a bunch of different strategies. And that's just from one thing being, you know, an air dribble. You could take a shot. You could just let the ball drop down. Like, you can look at the whole, while you're sitting there on the wall, you take a look at the arena, and you're like, oh, cool, no one's actually by me. I can slow down the play. And then you go through, fucking knock the ball back up, whatever, right? But that is where the game becomes so much fun for me, in that minutia, whenever you're just playing off of instinct and muscle memory. The only issue with that is it's gotten to the point where like I said, you know, like, I'm right at that top tier of diamond where I'm playing out of my mind a lot of the times, and I'm always reminding myself to do these little bitty things. It's going to be the difference between like making a save and not making a save, because every touch counts. Whereas even like a month before, I was just making kind of wild plays and having more fun, definitely, but also playing a lot more loose and wild. And now it's like, I don't want to say that I get like anxiety necessarily, but I know that based on where my skill level is and the skill level of my opponents, I can't just go into playing drop shot without being warmed up, right? Like, I can't just play Rocket League right now. I couldn't boot up the game, play drop shot online against these opponents that I got to that skill level by playing the game for like 6 or 7 hours one day. Well, maybe more like 4 or 5. But at the end of that 4 or 5 hour period, I was super warmed up. I knew what I was trying to do with the ball, like blah blah whatever. I was on top of it. And so now I was just thinking about that earlier today before I went to work. I was like, oh man, I'd love to squeeze in a couple games of Drop Shot. And I thought about it more and I was like, I'm going to get fucking destroyed. Like, my mind's not really, I'm like, my mind's into it, like I want to win or whatever. But, I've got to go to work soon. I keep checking the time. Like there's all these little factors that are going to make me play less good. And so I played a 1v1 because there's like no, because I'm not super high ranked and I really don't give a shit about my 1v1 ranking. And I guess I really don't care that much about my drop shot ranking. I just really do want to see how high I can go.
I mean, I know you guys talked me into it and stuff, and I do not like this game. It's a sports game. I don't play sports games. Like, it may have all the flash and stuff with the cars and the flipping and the whatnot, but it's a sports game. You're kicking a ball in a goal. So to that end, I never tried to learn the more advanced car techniques and just resorted to demolition. And I really like demolition. And then everyone got salty about it. It started demoing me back. And that was less fun.
A lot less fun. I think so again, I've been very vague with how the game works and everything. It's because there's no discernible plot and it's almost like a cheap thing to talk about, but in reality it's just something that I've been playing for a long time and I really fell back into it recently and tried to find more expertise with the game. And so this is a game I've been playing and it would be silly not to talk about a game that I've been obsessed with on a podcast where I talk about video games that I like.
Right.
So again, no overlying plot, although there's some really, really interesting things about the like inside lore people make up for it, because like you can see the people in the stands and they're like very amorphous, blobbish like things. Actually, I guess they're not amorphous at all because they're circular. They're just kind of blobby.
Right.
Anyways, so they actually, as far as just general information about this game, they have just recently released like an arena mode, like
Knockout Bash.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. I'm sure you saw some news about it or something.
I mean, I have the website open and stuff to do my research for your game, and they're playing this video over and over. And I gotta say, like, again, I didn't care enough about this game to learn the more advanced techniques, but it's one of those things where, like, through you guys, I've known of Rocket League almost since its inception, just about.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And it always seems like, there's the bottom skill level, the beginner, that is just basically drive the car around, hit your boost, get the ball in the net, and then you start learning these other techniques like the flipping, like the air control, all that shit. And I don't know, it just seems like at this point the devs now expect everyone to know the more advanced gameplay styles with it, how they're doing some of these things. Like this video for Knockout Bash, it's looping. This one car has like a sticky upgrade to, like, his car is covered in honey so that things stick to him, and he like does a front flip, catches an enemy car, and then does another front flip to like throw him into spikes. And it's like, I never learned how to do the front flip, so now I, like, according to the advertisement, it's like I have to learn at least intermediary tactics in order to play this game. And
the hilarious part about that is you do know how to front flip, because everyone does. It's literally just pressing, it's like that's your
I don't, like, I know how to jump, I know how to boost, I don't know how to put I mean, I guess but that's why I say it's like an intermediary skill. But at the same time, it's like I don't care enough about the game to learn that kind of move.
No, I mean, regardless of where the skill set comes from or anything.
Besides what buttons are currently on the controller, I don't care about learning like the combos to push forward. It's not like Mortal Kombat where I'm just completely bad at it, but I still at least learn 3 combos to like get through it. I just don't want to learn these.
No, so again, a lot of the reason why I'm talking about Rocket League is because it's something I'm super fucking passionate about. I really, really enjoy just everything from the game. there's a huge mechanic of this, right? And so my co-host, my co-host over here is talking about not knowing how to do a front flip, which is literally just pressing X twice or button 2, since I guess we were talking about fighting games. The mechanical part of Rocket League, like you were talking about a front flip, well, it's like, that's like one of the most normal things you could do. It's so in reality, you want to do like a front flip like that, right? Because you have boost in this game, and then you get little boost pads, or like depending on whatever whatever mode you're playing. Sometimes it regenerates automatically. Sometimes you have to get little pads. Sometimes you have to drive your car over this little power up to get full boost. And then you can use that boost to fly around and everything. But that's how you make these really minute touches. So as far as Chuck talking about the front flip thing, that's how you gain speed without boosting. So you might not have boost, and you're gonna pepper in some of these flips. Well, every time you flip, you're dedicating your car to move X amount forward without being able to control it because you're flipping forward. And again, this is not a. I mean, I guess this is a Rocket League review, but it's not a Rocket League podcast. So I don't want to go into like absolute minute detail about how all these little things work and how all this crap in this game works, because I love that fucking shit. Like, I am so into this game. I'm just about to like upgrade my controller, get a new fucking USB cord for it, do all these things just so I can have tighter controls. I've also spent years using the same controller layout, and I really need to change it slightly to what some pros use, just because it is like factually a better idea, and it makes you like have slightly faster reaction speeds with your buttons bound the way they do, right? So I use power slide on button 1, and pros use power slide on L1. Well, I use L1 for air roll. Well, I use free air roll. So whenever I hold down L1, my car moves in a different axis than if it would move by me not holding down that button. So if I don't hold down L1 and I move my joystick to the left, the front of my car will turn to the left. But if I hold down air roll and turn my stick to the left, the top of my car and my car as a whole will rotate and flip around. As long as I'm holding down the button, then it'll flip all the way back around. And so pros and really most good players don't use free air roll. They use air roll left and air roll right, because instead of having to press a button and then move your stick, you just press a button and it does what 2 button presses would do. And so it kind of like makes sense that would be faster. It's just I haven't played like that for so long, and I've tried to switch my controls and play. But like I'm saying, I'm playing at like a kind of high level of competition, and I suck. I'm going to have to spend probably weeks relearning how to play like this. And I really don't want to. I like the game too much, and I want like the serotonin of being successful in scoring goals.
Well, I mean, like when we were playing a whole bunch of Halo Reach, I was playing it with the default controller scheme, and you kept telling me, well, the pros use a thing called bumper jumper.
Yeah,
where you move the jump to one of the Xbox controller bumpers because it frees up your thumb to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I fought you for so long on that, and then when I switched it, it's like totally different world. It's like opening your eyes when playing this game,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like the amount of uses I would get out of that kind of switch are almost negligible. Like, yeah, it completely like opened my way of like rethinking how the game works and stuff. Of course, there's the like learning phase and shit. But at the same time, it's like, you see some of the shit the pros do and how they progress from bumper jumper to some of these other different layouts that they do. And it's just like, I don't know, besides changing my jump to the bumper, I really like the layout where it is. I'm going to keep playing with it. At the same time, I'm not trying to be like in the top 100 percentile,
Right. See, I think that's the difference. Is like I've never been the very best at like anything, but I've always been a competitor, and I always want, whenever it's a competitive game, for someone to say like, "Oh, that was a good fight," or "Oh, hey, that was tough." right? Like I just want to play it like a with excellence. Not
Yeah.
the top tier, but with excellence, like some kind of excellence. And I think that's what came out with like, I mean, as soon as you mentioned Halo Reach, shit, you were there.
Yeah.
I dominated that game. Like I tore that game open, reached my hand inside, pulled out everything that was good, and then devoured it all, and then loomed over its corpse saying more. And
Right.
like, and that's extremely apt because for Halo Reach, they only had like X amount of levels, right? You could only level up so many times, and then all the experience you gained went nowhere, right? Except they patched in more ranks after, and it retroactively applied all that time that I had spent gaining no experience. And so, like, I leveled up so much and so fast in the course of, logging off and then logging back on whenever they released that patch, that for the first time in my life, I was actually having like 12 and 13-year-old children online, like shit talking me for being a nerd and for like playing a game too much. It's like,
That was also like probably the only iteration of a multiplayer game that once you reach max level, it will still calculate your XP, you know? Like Call of
right.
Duty would never do that in fucking
Prestige, baby.
yeah. Well, I mean prestige to kind of reset, but once you reach max level, it would never like store XP.
Oh God, no. No,
Yeah.
no, no. You lost it. You straight up lost it.
Yeah.
You're
And
either prestige, so you wouldn't.
newer versions of like Halo and stuff is like once you reach max level, it will stay at 0 until the patch comes out and then you could start accruing. That was the only iteration of that I can think of. So, game I brought this week. Now, I kind of changed last minute on what it was today because we planned these a week in advance and stuff. Last week, totally spaced that this was May the 4th. So you might acknowledge that we went pretty Star Wars heavy pretty early on, you know.
Well,
Very Star Wars
right?
heavy.
Because, well, you were gonna do Clam Digger, right?
Yeah.
That was this week.
Yeah.
Right, right. But then it's like, hey,
I mean,
May 4th.
everybody knows Clam Digger. Like, what's the point in talking about a game that everybody plays? So, now by the time this episode airs, it's gonna be like mid-May, but we are recording on May 4th, and I've been in a very Star Warsy mood for some reason. I don't know why, but so recently the Switch came out with a re-release remastered version of The Force Unleashed, you know, with Star Killer and stuff where it's like really cool force physics in it and stuff, taking the place between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. And so I was just like thinking like, man, I really want to play some of these old games again. And so I got on my Switch and I was looking up The Force Unleashed. Well, for May the 4th, like basically for the 5 days leading up to May 4th, there was a sale going on where it was you could get the remastered Force Unleashed, you could get Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, you could get Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Academy, Episode 1 Pod Racer, and Republic Commando. Like 5 games, all classic Star Wars games for $40. It's like, well, these are all the games I wanted to play. So I was like prepared to drop 70 for all of these games at once, you know? So it's like, cool, $40. Drop it, get them all installed. First game I launch, of course, Force Unleashed. It's the fucking Wii version, man. Fucking Wii version. Not the good version. Like, what the? So then I flipped and went to Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, which is a phenomenal game. It's very old, and even playing it now, it's like you really, if you're a young gamer, you might not get into it because of the old graphic style, but I promise you it's a fun ass game where you play as a Jedi. If you're an older player, then you're gonna have some good memories of the shit. You know, it's like, oh man, right. I remember playing games that look like this. what it was is, it started on the N64. There was a game called Dark Forces, and it was a first-person shooter where you played as a character that was kind of like following in the path of the rebellion, and you'd be like on planet Hoth or go to Endor, shit like that. There's parts
Indoor.
where you fight Boba Fett and you get a jetpack, shit, those kinds of things. And it was a story, and it was like a bounty hunter that learns he's force sensitive. And so, Jedi Knight 2 is basically the sequel to that game, in which he had a falling out with Luke Skywalker and basically gave up his force powers. And so he goes back to bounty hunting, and he has to go to this Empire base. And while you're there, this is still all like first person shootery. You could change it to third person, but it's more fun as first person. So you're trying to figure out why the Empire's there, what the Empire's looking for. And you're going through, you have a blaster, you could pick up like the battle rifles that the stormtroopers use. You could find like a Wookiee bowcaster, blow shit up.
Ooh.
It's like a Doom clone, kinda.
Right.
But the gun physics are rough. Like, you can say like on like Counter-Strike and stuff, one of the more basic skills is learning how to strafe and shoot and lead your target, kind of thing.
Right.
You do it on this, your character moves too fast for the strafe to really like work, and then the way you swing your gun, even if you change the sensitivity, your gun just swings too slow. And when you fire, it's not like, say, you lead the target, and as soon as you hit the trigger button, the game kind of like calculates that line where you're pointing. In this one, it's as soon as you pull the trigger button, it creates the laser, and then creates a time that the laser travels. And so, I know a lot of this is kind of like, well, so it's like realistic. It's very hard to explain unless you get your hands on it.
How realistic is it?
But it's like, between the wonky character movement and the weird way that you have to lead the target and stuff, it's very hard to hit stormtroopers. And you don't want to just be standing still, because, I mean, stormtroopers can't hit anything. Well, they can hit you in this game. they're pretty goddamn accurate. This first level is really, really hard because you're learning the new gun physics and stuff. You're learning how things are. This is a game that doesn't take any prisoners. Like, health drops are very limited. Shield drops are very limited. Fucking ammo is very limited in a way. So if you're just kind of like blasting away randomly, you're gonna get to a point where you're completely out of ammo and all you have is a stun baton. You have to like run into a group of like 10 stormtroopers, just stunning them to get ammo. But after that, the main character Kyle, he basically gets reattuned to the Force, and so he goes back and finds Luke Skywalker's Jedi temple and gets his lightsaber back. And that's when it really opens up. You learn lightsaber combat. You start being able to level up force powers. So through the game, as you're collecting things, you could like start putting it into like, oh, I've moved my force push from level 1 to level 3 kind of thing. Right. And that's when the game becomes so much fun, because previously, I mean, there's been like the Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic RPGs and stuff where you could play as Jedis. There's been some Jedi games
Coder,
before,
baby.
but none that has such freedom when you're running around as a Jedi. This came out long before like The Force Unleashed and a few other Jedi games. This is kind of like, it became the building blocks for Jedi combat moving forward. And the free use of the lightsaber, there's like actual, you could slice and dice in this game. If you're killing stormtroopers, you're slicing off their hands and shit. It's crazy. Just like walking alongside of a wall, your lightsaber will like leave a melted trail in the wall. Like they really spend some time in lightsaber physics of this game.
Yeah, no, so this is a game that I've seen pop up like over the years, and it's always one of those things that whenever I see it, I'm like, dude, how did I not play this game?
Right? Once again, I'm wrong, and so I'm going to correct myself. Shadows of the Empire was the N64 game, and the main character in that was Dash Rendar, and it took the place between the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and you play as the bounty hunter that figures out Boba Fett has Han Solo, and so you have to track him down to get Luke Skywalker to find him.
Isn't that alone just such an interesting plot?
So the game series that this kind of falls after is it's like a PC game called Dark Forces, and it was a Doom clone where you play as Kyle Katarn, and you run through a space station for the Empire and go through and blow it up. So after that came Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, in which Kyle Katarn learns he's force sensitive, learns how to be a Jedi, and that was the first iteration of the lightsabers for him and stuff. But it was still like, it still had like the Doom aesthetic, how the first person is and stuff. So even the lightsaber wasn't really fleshed out or anything. But at the end of that is when he loses his access to the Force, and then the title changed to Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast, and that's when he reacquires his link to the Force, and that's when they really expanded on the use of the lightsaber and stuff. So it's very interesting that this extended universe plot line spans 3, 4 games, and they changed the name of the game each one, but it's still a continuing story, you know? It's starting with Dark Forces, and then Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, and then Jedi Knight 2, and then Jedi Academy. It's one of those interesting things where if you don't play through them all, you wouldn't know that something happens before it. But at the same time, each game was created in a way where you could pick up any of them and you wouldn't need the other stuff. You could just play it to play a Star Wars game, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of how I got into Jedi Outcast. Was I just picked it up because I heard it was the best like lightsaber shit, and it is. It's so fucking great. It's through Jedi Knight 2, you're not only like doing the normal Jedi stuff like force push and pull and mind tricks and shit. They do a whole thing where he learns some of the dark side powers. Like you get force lightning, you know, but it's not it's not like the Knights of the Old Republic style where it's like, oh, well, you're picking good choices or bad choices kind of thing. It's just he has an attachment to both sides. He's still on Luke Skywalker's side. Like this isn't a morality choice thing. You just get those powers and get to have fun with them.
Right.
Jedi Academy, you create your own character to go through the story and stuff, and on that one you actually do get the choices to either be a good guy or a bad guy.
Coder.
But, another cool thing, this game is built to be, you know, lightsabers are fictional world realistic, you know. So
right.
I was talking about, you know, you slice and dice fucking stormtroopers, you know, you walk past a wall and it creates this melting thing. Bosses could die in one hit if you hit them with a lightsaber. The whole thing about you facing another like Jedi or Sith and stuff is learning how to like block attacks and do like these cool combos and use your force to like throw them off guard so that you could get that one hit in. Conversely, if they hit you once with the lightsaber, you're dead.
Dunzo. Yep, that's all it takes.
So it's fucking great. There's health bars and stuff, but that only applies to like, you know, explosions or blaster shots and stuff. Like, lightsabers are fucking deadly in this game, and it's amazing. Jedi Academy just like really ups the ante, because Jedi Academy, since you're playing as a new character and stuff, there's a part of the game where you get to build your own lightsaber. So it's one of the first real iterations of like going from the single lightsaber style to getting dual lightsabers, or getting the double bladed lightsaber, or even a staff with a lightsaber attached to it. And all of that, like, you think of the most recent game, Jedi Fallen Order, that came out just a couple years ago, where it kind of has like some Dark Souls inspiration to it and stuff. Like, that game, while playing it, I wanted it so much to be a spiritual successor to Jedi Outcast. Is kind of more of a spiritual successor to The Force Unleashed. But because everything has health bars and stuff, lightsabers aren't as deadly. Like, even on bosses and stuff, you can block and shit, but even when you land hits, they still have health dropping down and stuff. But the lightsaber customization in that game is top notch. Just being able to customize the hilt and the blade color and everything. Jedi Outcast 2, phenomenal game. It's one of those that, it's difficult, but a fun kind of difficult.
Right. Where it makes you want to go back to the same situation and say, how do I do this better?
Yeah. I mean, that very first level where it's that gun combat is so frustrating. It's such a grind. And I promise you, if you hate that first level, if you could just push through and get to the lightsaber, the game changes vastly. It's kind of like
then you're good.
It's kind of like a way of showing you, in the first level, it's like, this is what the world is like for normal people, shooting blasters and shit. And then you get the lightsaber, and it's like, now this is what it's like to be a Jedi in this world. Nobody can hit you with blasters, and you cut off their head.
Checkmate, idiot.
So it's great. I love it. And yeah, it's one of those older style games. And so if you're a graphics whore, like I have a proclivity to graphics, and it's really hard for me to pick up a game I haven't played before if the graphics aren't there. But
I know that very well.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I played when it was new, and so I can
and it was tight.
Yeah, I go back through, and it's like I can play through these graphics because it's like, well, I have nostalgic memories attached to this, and I know the gameplay matches up.
I can feel that. I can understand that.
That's kind of all I have for that, other than more of a rant of how Disney fucked with the extended universe. By the way, here's a interesting side thing. Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast was developed for the PC, Microsoft Windows and Mac OS, by Raven Software, who is currently owned by Activision, and they do one of the rotations. I think they're in charge of the Modern Warfare 2 Warzone stuff. And they recently are in the news because their game tester team unionized.
Really?
They're like one of the first groups to unionize in the gaming space.
Goddamn, it's happening.
Which, if anybody wants to know, is one of the shittiest workforces, and I'm so glad they're starting to unionize, because those fucking people at the top, specifically Bobby Kotick, fuck them all. Fucking burn down their $1 million mansions. Fuck them.
Get out of here.
Like, unions have their own drawback, but nothing beats firing 60% of your workforce just to claim profits by the year end. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a bit fucked.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting that they're one of those old school companies that is not only still around, but like innovating in a way. Jedi Outcast.
What's the review?
My rating for it is blue lightsaber out of green.
Oh.
Boom.
Damn,
That's
nailed
right.
it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening this week. Just a reminder, we do have a Twitter up at twitter.com/toomanygames2. That's TOO mini games and then the number 2. We have a Patreon up at Too Many Games.
Thank you, Jake.
For $3 a month, you get access to our extended episodes, which we rant a lot. We go on off topics. I try to keep the main topics in the Spotify listing.
Every single episode,
we do go on.
Every single episode we have recorded has gone on for like over an hour of what we actually show you. Like easily over an hour. In fact,
I mean, episode 4 went for 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours plus, not 2 hours total. 2 hours over the normal amount of time. What I'm trying to say is, the young kid Chuck, he does good work. He edits the shit out of these, and so if for anyone who actually does just appreciate the raw, uncut bullshit, me just smoking weed and burping and taking long pauses because I have bad acid reflux, and us talking about wow.
It's not unedited. It's extended. I still cut the pauses. I still cut the burps and stuff. It's just, it's extended. So I don't cut our rants. I don't cut our off-topic discussions. That's what it is.
Right.
I'll leave this part in to explain, but while recording this, we kind of went on for probably 40 minutes talking about Magic the Gathering and Mortal Kombat and stupid shit like that. So if you're listening on Spotify and you would like to know our opinions on what we talked about on that stuff and why we went off topic, it'll be in the extended version available to Patreon subscribers at $3 a month. Thank you, Jake, for being our first subscriber.
Thank you, Jake.
He's always there to support us. In fact, he's good guy, Jake. He's our first Patreon subscriber. If you want to be anyone, be like Jake and subscribe to our Patreon. Also, hit us up on Twitter. Like, send us questions, comment on how we're doing, call us fucking idiots, anything. Just, talk to us on Twitter, comment ideas. If you're listening on, we are available on Spotify. We're available on iTunes. We're on Google Play. We're on multiple other podcast platforms. On any of those platforms, be sure to give us a rating on those platforms too. That always helps. Typically 5-star, but go ahead, throw it in 1 star. It keeps us from thinking too highly of ourselves.
Yeah, make sure you rate us a 1 so that we get motivated to do a better job, because I don't want to say we're bad at this, but it's not like we're professionals in the least.
Like, we're going to keep going with our format unless, we actually get some comments of, here's ways to change. With your input, we'll actually be able to make our show better. So please give us some input. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Good night, friends.